No, he's still got
away now, though. Walcott, off a chance. What are we going to see? Theo Walcott smashes Arsenal in front to Stamford Bridge.
Giroud. Back to Podolski. That is an absolute stunner. Looks as if it was far too congested.
I think it's needed at the moment. The ball hits Van Persie. What a goal that was! Sheer quality from Robin Van Persie, found by Son.
It is the little Spaniard, Santi Cazorla! Arsenal 1, Hull 2. A classic free kick. Sanchez. Oh, Sanchez has scored an absolute beauty. Fabregas. It's Nadri. Can he go all the way here? Still Nadri. Looks like Xavi. Here's Giroud. Oh, brilliantly taken. Absolutely brilliantly taken by Aaron Ramsey. He's got one right. And Arsenal finally lead.
Flag stays down this time. This could be the winner for Arsenal. Ozil, beautiful skill. He must score. Still Ozil. Oh! Well, that was quite remarkable. But Mesut Ozil looks like he's won the game.
Locked, cocked, and loaded. This is a Clock End Talk preview pod, kind of. You may notice that there are some differences. So, I don't have the pearly white, wonderfully capped off teeth that Darren has, our regular host. But Darren's too busy buttering for cheap prostitutes in a Turkish brothel at the moment. So he's left it to me to take over and run this asylum. And Tez, this could go anywhere. You could end up regretting this. But it's 7:30 in the morning. I'm not on the piss. I've only drunk coffee, which, as my first guest, Dan Potts, knows, usually brings out the best in me.
Literally.
Dan Potts, welcome from the famous and legendary Same Old Arsenal podcast. It's so lovely to have you on the Clock End Talk.
Cheers, man. Pleasure to meet Liam and come onto the show. And this is weird having you host this show, man. Jesus, they're brave. I tell you that, man. They are brave. Do you know what though? It's funny because in the intro it has to bring up Theo Walcott, one of your favorite ever players. So, yeah, man. Listen, pleasure to be on.
I love Theo, Dan. I'm a big Theo fan. In fact,
no way.
He's on the back of this shirt, mate. Liam, lovely to have you as always. The Running Gunner, did I get that right?
So close. Great to be back as always. I'm always the almost not quite a virgin on this at the moment, but you got all the senior pros I'm always with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun.
So it's past Liam's bedtime at the moment, so bear with him. You're right, Pedal? You're right, darling?
Who?
Yes.
So I'm just knackered.
Yeah,
football training, day work.
If that intro doesn't get you up for talking about Arsenal, I don't know what will. I'm like, as soon as he screamed Walcott, I was like, I'm ready to go. And then he finished it with Ozil, and I was like, not so excited.
Yeah, not the best ending.
Yes,
it was loud enough to wake me up. I'll put it that way anyway.
Amazing. So this is going to be a slightly different preview pod to what we usually do, predominantly because of what has just happened, the cup game against Liverpool, the fact that we're recording at 10:30 at night in the UK. I think it's 11:30 in Holland where Liam is, and it's 7:30 in the morning, and I've been up since Sparrow's crack, and my face looks like it's been filled with puffy jam at the moment. But I've drunk a coffee, I've had a shit, and I'm all good. I'm good. I'm good to go. I'm clear for the next half an hour. So we're going to do it a bit differently. What we're going to do is, because the Liverpool game has just happened, it would be remiss of us not to have a conversation about the game and talk about it. Usually we would have a fan coming on the preview show, a Sheffield United fan coming on the preview show, but really hard to get someone on at 10:30 at night. So we're going to kind of stumble through it. And we do have the man who has the number one preview show on the internet on to bolster the ship. So Dan, it's as far as information and knowledge goes, it's going to be all on you, champion. There's a reason why I gave you a call.
Man, I don't know about that, but I'll do my best, bro.
That's it, mate. I'm just pumping you up so you can let everyone down. That's the general plan. Liam, I'm going to start with you, champion. We expected reshuffles in teams from the Premier League game against Liverpool, but I thought that it was a very strong lineup from Arsenal and quite a strong lineup from Liverpool as well. Granted, both second teams, but by far not youth teams or C teams.
No, Liverpool went stronger than I expected. Van Dijk was in there, Salah was in there, Milner was in there, even if he was at left back. I mean, we went strong too, but it was still heavily rotated, just like Leicester a week ago. Willock's played 40-odd games last season. Ceballos was in there, and he didn't start at the weekend. So, yeah, both heavily rotated, but I guess that shows the depth of two very big sides.
Dan, the rotation for Arsenal, I found it really interesting because in times gone past when we've looked at old Arsenal League Cup teams, we would have expected to see essentially the under-21s team roll out. Now, we did put out a lot of young players, but quite incredible is the journey that Arsenal has been on over the last 2 years in blooding and bedding in these players, that it was so much less of a youth team and more of a development first team squad with the likes of Willock in there and Saka in there.
It was indeed. And I mean, just to start with, I must admit, I saw the squad today or this morning, and I saw again that Saliba had not travelled, and I just don't quite understand what's going on there. There's clearly something that Arteta is not quite happy with at the moment, whether it be that he's not kind of settled in as well, whether he's not physically fit, whether he's not quite ready with the communication of sides, whether he sees that the other options are just settled more or just have an understanding of how the system works. So that was my first kind of shock, but even more so to see the team, because I spoke to Manny actually before when the team come out, and we both said this fairly strong. I mean, everyone knows I'm not a fan of Kolasinac, but apart from that, everybody else seemed to be fairly okay in there. And one thing straight away, Leno in goal again, because obviously we're used to the second goalkeeper playing cup games. And he seems to be taking this competition fairly seriously, Mikel Arteta, and he's going to have to, because we've just seen who we've got in the next round of the draw. So he's going to have to take it seriously, because the team that we've got take it extremely seriously every year and pretty much win it every year. So with the squad they've got. So as far as I was concerned with the team lineup, it shocked me, but in a good way, if that makes sense, Max.
Yeah, look, the Saliba thing I didn't find surprising. And there's a reason why I didn't find it surprising. I didn't find it surprising because I think that at the moment, as Mikel Arteta is essentially his main job at the moment, his main output in the moment is about changing the philosophies and changing the structures that the team have played in for so long. So you think about under Emery and under Arsene Wenger, there was no cutting edge. There was no die hard, we're going out to win everything all the time. It was go out and express yourself or go out and hold this particular shape. And I think what we've seen in the start of the season, what Mikel Arteta is trying to do is he's trying to build momentum. And I think if you go and pull arguably the most informed defender at Arsenal right now in Rob Holding, and we're going to get to him because it's another very strong showing from Rob Holding. You go and pull him out of the team and put in Saliba against Liverpool when you've just lost to Liverpool. I think he would have looked at it and said 2 losses in a row isn't good emotionally for the team. 2 losses in a row isn't good spiritually for the team. I reckon he's probably gone out there and just gone a little bit stronger to almost make sure that he's going to win that after a very passive showing against Liverpool in the Premier League. I haven't read anything saying Saliba is injured. I just think that we might see Saliba folded in. Liam, I said this last week to you and Darren. I think we'll probably see Saliba folded in the early rounds of the Europa League, where maybe we're going to be coming up against nobodies in but fuck nowhere. Where it's going to be, if we drop a game early in the Europa League, it's not going to be the biggest thing. Liam, like you said, Liverpool a bit stronger than what we expected as well, with the additions of Van Dijk and the additions of Salah. And it made for quite an interesting game, quite an interesting first half. Liam, I put a note down in the kind of, it was about 15 minutes into the game where I said, sometimes we see when Aubameyang isn't in the team in a wide area, what you get when you put an actual left winger or an actual winger with actual technicality on down that side. The movement and the link up between Saka and Pepe caused all sorts of problems for Liverpool in that first 20 minutes. How did you see those two performances, and how did you see that change technically from what we had seen against Liverpool?
Yeah, we started better. I mean, I missed the first 5 minutes of the game. I was coming home from my own football coaching training session. So I missed the first 5 minutes when I heard Eddie had a good chance. But I thought Liverpool recognised that they were a threat. And as soon as they recognised that, Minamino was on Saka straight away. As soon as they realised that Saka was the danger man and was going to find Pepe, Minamino was all over him. And that really sort of stopped us. And then as the half grew on, I sort of felt that Liverpool's backline was getting higher and squeezing the pitch. We weren't getting it to Saka and Ceballos, who were the main outlets. And the more the half went on, the more I felt we struggled to get any kind of grip on the game and get out of our half.
Definitely, there was a small tactical change from Liverpool. They were wide open in the first 20 minutes and really struggling to go with us. And on that little Aubameyang comment I made, because I've made it before about how much of a low-touch player he is, and the fact that even though he has quite a high level of efficiency as far as goal return, sometimes his actual build-up play and his link-up play with his winger is a little bit lacking, and he can, as we saw against Liverpool in the Premier League, go missing. Did you notice that with Saka and Pepe early on, how much more technical we were, how much quicker we moved the ball?
Yeah, wholeheartedly. I think it was clear to see. I mean, Aubameyang was invisible, wasn't he, on Monday night? And so was Willian, in my opinion. And it was a completely different story when Saka was on the ball. I've said it before, when everyone's fit, I'd play Saka on the left. You know, I think he's one of our most threatening players. I'm gutted for the lad that he's not getting game time at the moment. And I can understand why he hasn't in certain fixtures. But I think he should have been given more game time, certainly, in some of the games. But for me, Saka's one of our most threatening players. And down that left-hand side, I thought that he was working really well. And in particularly the first half, was our most dangerous player, and Liverpool just couldn't handle him. And I agree with what Liam's saying about Minamino, 100%. I think the other player who actually decided to kind of half turn up in that fixture for the first 10 minutes was Kolasinac, and then it went wrong yet again for him. I can't. I've run out of things to say about how bad this guy is. I really have. But Saka for me in the first half, outstanding.
I had two notes on Kolasinac, Dan. My first note was, Kolasinac's not playing badly. Then my second note was, Jesus, Kolasinac has started doing Kolasinac things.
It was a header. It was a header for me when he just headed it to the two strikers. That was just, I mean, it's Sunday League, isn't it? It's that bad. Yeah. The guy is dreadful. Dreadful footballer.
He's a special player. He's a fridge. He is a fridge on legs. Obviously, as we mentioned, Liverpool came back into the game, as you expect from a good Liverpool, from an organised Liverpool. They closed down the spaces. I don't want to go too much into Eddie's miss. It's a miss. Strikers are going to miss. I will say that I seeing Eddie go into that position, I at least expect him to get a shot off, because I see Eddie as that more predatory striker. That was almost a Lacazette-style extra touch, try and make it guaranteed, attempted finish from Eddie. Dan, but one of the things that really, really stuck out to me, and one of the notes that I wrote down, the interesting thing about these games, the interesting thing about seeing these younger players going out compared to the older players, is there's no doubt that the older players in those forward positions seem to have much better execution. When the chance comes to them, they seem to be able to execute, find the cross, find the ball. But looking at this team go out, it's almost a window into how we expect Arteta wants to play, and the tempos that Arteta wants to play once he gets the athleticism, once he gets the physical athletes into the team. It's almost a crack of a window into the future with what might happen.
Yeah, you're spot on, mate. And you can see the progression already in terms of the last 6 months, it's been chalk and cheese, hasn't it? Under Arteta, what he's managed to do with, in my opinion, a bang average side. Let's not get it twisted. This side come 8th. What we've done is add Willian. You know what I mean? I know Gabriel's played a handful of games, but he's only actually played 2 games. So as far as I'm concerned, I thought he was exceptional, by the way. And I'm sure we'll come to in a minute. I thought he was outstanding, Gabriel, tonight. But yeah, I think when you look at the team itself, Arteta has found a system that makes these players look okay. But what I don't want that to do is to get it twisted, because we need players. And you talk about lack of athleticism, Max, and kind of lack of mobility. Elneny and Xhaka are fine when they're on the ball. Elneny will pass the ball very, very nicely. He'll keep the ball. He'll rarely give it away. And Granit Xhaka has a great left foot to spray balls. Off the ball, they are shocking. And they are terribly bad. And Granit Xhaka again tonight, although I thought he had a good game on the ball, off the ball, Salah was causing him all sorts of problems again. You'd think learn from your mistakes, and it just wasn't. It was exactly the same thing for me. So I think when these two midfielders come up against top quality, it really shows. It's fine looking like Vieira and Petit against Fulham, but against Liverpool, honestly, it was hard to watch in parts of it. Saying that, I thought Ceballos give us the energy, and I was surprised to see him come off. But I could kind of see where Arteta was thinking there. But yeah, our midfield worries me, and we do need players. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we're going to get them in the next couple of days.
Look, with Xhaka, I thought that he started the game very well when the midfield stood off him and it was open. There was a pass between the lines. But once again, we saw as soon as Liverpool make that tweak, block off the channel pass and put him under pressure. People talk about Xhaka not being press resistance. I talk about him not being stress resistance. As soon as you stress him, those dodgy balls start firing into people. He looks to start to get rid. His lack of mobility and people running in behind him, he definitely doesn't suit an open game. Liam, will all of the Leno haters please fuck off? What a game from the guy. What a way to put 2 fingers up to everyone who's jacking off Emi Martinez on Twitter every single day and say, fuck off, I'm the number one. His performance was outstanding. His saves were outstanding. What did you make of him tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on record and I stand by it as advocating for Emi to be the one that stayed, if any. But because I said that doesn't mean I dislike Leno. He's a top quality keeper. There's no getting around that. He will make you saves and he will keep you in games. I thought there was a slight iffy moment that I wasn't sure if he could have caught. I think it was in the first half, right before half time when they hit the bar. There was a moment I thought, oh, fuck, don't go on Twitter now. Don't go on Twitter now because they'll be out in full force. But he more than makes up for it. Stunning save from, can't remember who headed it, from a corner, I think it was. Just to claw it out and get distance on it wide. And then the penalty.
Yeah, look, the save down low from Van Dijk for me was absolutely world class. And funnily enough, the looping header where he makes the save to the top corner, that's very, people won't look at that. It's very fast to organize your feet. It's wrong-footed. It's drifting. And he makes that save. It only doesn't get spoken about by the commentators because it comes after a string of 4 or 5 saves. Dan, I did switch on Twitter, unlike Liam, after that first save from Leno, because I wanted to see if, I guess, the hatred, I don't know whether it's hatred, but the desire for people to pull Leno up on his mistakes was still there. And straight away I saw it. Comments about him having soft hands when he needs to have hard hands and hard hands when he needs to have soft hands. I'm not so sure that from that first shot, there's much more he can do than parry it out. It does go to the middle, but he more than makes up with it with some really amazing, genuine saves. Now, not to say that Emi Martinez isn't a good keeper or wasn't a good keeper or didn't do a great job for us in the time he was in, but Leno has been producing those saves now for us throughout Emery, throughout Ljungberg, and throughout Arteta. Do you think he's maybe done enough in this game to give himself a bit of reprieve from the toilet that is Twitter attacking him at all costs?
Well, listen, it's eyes of a hawk, isn't it, on Leno? You know, every time he drops the ball, Martinez was the better goalkeeper. But what people don't talk about is the fact that Martinez had an absolute stinker against Aston Villa. Against Fulham the other night.
Threw
One
into
into his
own
net,
Yeah.
and luckily VAR then saves him. So
Yep.
no one talks about that one, do they? They all talk about Leno. So very interesting from Arsenal fans. I don't quite understand it. Let's all slate our number one and go and suck off the lad that's in Aston Villa. Very, very bizarre. Go and support Aston Villa. If you want to go and support Aston Villa, but be my guest. But Leno's our number one. And if you want to cry about Martinez, then please go and support Aston Villa and shut the fuck up. Because as far as I'm concerned, this dude has been my most consistent player, probably arguably along with Aubameyang, if not better than Aubameyang in the last 2 and over 2 seasons now consistently. So for him to now just be a poor goalkeeper because Emi Martinez has had 10 games where there's not one fan in the ground is beyond me. So that was a massive up yours today. He saved 2 penalties, 7 saves in 90 minutes. And what I liked about him was he looked like he knew that the pressure was on him, but he didn't care about it. And in his interview afterwards, he just said, look, I was told I was number one and I've proved why I'm number one. And I just thought, brilliant interview. I just want this guy to get some confidence back because I think it has been knocked. And Max, he's been out for what, 2 or 3 months injured?
What I was just about to say, Dan, if a striker went away with what was it? Was it an MCL? It wasn't an ACL. I think it was an MCL or a PCL, side or back. I've fucking forgotten which one. But if a striker went away with a knee problem and came back and didn't score a goal for 3 games, everyone would be sitting there saying, "Oh well, you know, he's coming back to fitness. You know, he's coming back to form." And no one even let Leno come in and come back to form. Immediately on him about, you know, not looking after his ball. And I know that he has some history. I'm not discounting the fact that he does have some history of parrying the ball back into danger, and he does have some history of definitely not being the most dominant keeper in his box. But equally, there are issues with Emi that we have seen now with Villa, and we will see across the season. I can't remember whether it was Tony on this podcast or whether it was Harry on your podcast, Dan, talking about over the course of the season, we're going to see the real Emi Martinez because you're going to see him across 40 games, not across such a small window. And no dislike to Emi. Love the guy.
Yeah, likewise. I thought it was brilliant.
Him.
Yeah, I did.
I just think that attacking your own players for the sake of dreaming of hand jobs from an ex-girlfriend is ridiculous. Like,
it's toxic fans, mate. Arsenal fans.
Love the hand job you've got, and that's burnt Leno. I told you, Tez, you're going to regret this. You put me in a host, I go into ArseBros Rantcast mode for anyone who watches the degeneracy that we produce. Not much, Liam, as far as Arsenal coming back into the game throughout the second half. It was very dominant from Liverpool. We struggled to get control there. We also looked quite leggy, I thought, because maybe some of those players had played a bit already. But I want to talk about 2 performances who I think that outside of Leno having obviously a man of the match performance were really outstanding and really good. So the first one being Rob Holding and the second one being Gabriel. Now, I want to start with Rob Holding before we chat about Gabriel. Coming back from a major injury, we've seen with Rob Holding that when he's had an extended time in the team, he really does stick his head above the parapet as maybe not a distributing athletic defender, but as a no-nonsense climb up, get the ball out, and someone who genuinely loves a tackle and loves a challenge. Did you see what I saw in that game? Have you seen what I've seen in a couple of games that Rob Holding is coming into form and is maybe at a point where he is going to be hard to displace from that right side of the back 3?
Yeah, I mean, he's a classic old school type defender. You think of, I mean, he's not on the same level, but old school Tony Adams style. You know, he's not trying to pass the ball out and do silly things. He's good at defending. He knows how to make a tackle. He knows how to win a ball in the air. And he does it well. He does it effectively. And I think people have been quite quick to get onto Rob Holding's back, especially because I think it was Jordan Nobbs in the women's team. I listened to, I think it's the Arsenal Vision podcast that Tim Stillman talks on. And he was looking to Jordan Nobbs, who also did an ACL injury. She said, well, I was recovered after a year and back playing football, but my ceiling is a 7 out of 10. It takes another year to then be able to reach your 9 and 10 out of 10 performances. And that's the stage that Rob Holding, I feel like Rob Holding's now reached the point where okay, I can reach that 6 and 7 out of 10 quite consistently. It's nothing special, but he does his job well, and he's always up for a fight. In the big games, he's always up for it. But then now the challenge is, can he take the next step? Can he reach his 9 and 10 games? And that's what I hope we're going to progress to see.
Dan, we have seen Rob Holding hit some high quality performances prior to his injury. Memories of early games paired up with Per Mertesacker in FA Cup finals. Do you think that this really is now a matter of that form becomes such a factor and being backed becomes such a factor, especially when you have such a glut of defenders within the team?
It's the Arteta way, isn't it? We've seen it with other players in Danny Ceballos, in Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Martinez even, they were backed by the manager and the confidence grows. Rob Holding had 22 games unbeaten under Unai Emery, let's not forget, alongside Socrates, had looked like one of our most consistent performers at the back. I think what happened with Rob Holding the other night and why he was getting some bad negative comments from certain people. I mean, I had Lee Judges ring me up on a Monday. Oh, Rob Holding, he's toilet. What's going on? And I looked at Bellerin and thought he was toilet. And that was the reason that Rob Holding was so poor, because Rob Holding was playing in two positions, or trying to, because Bellerin was just so bad with his off the ball positioning yet again that Rob Holding got caught by a very good player, by the way, and Sadio Mane, who some would say is probably the best in the world in his position on the left. So Rob Holding is improving. So let's see how he can get there consistently. Really good point from Liam there about how you can reach that ceiling and how you can improve. And that's a horrendous injury to come back from, boys. Horrendous injury.
Dan, while you're rolling on the centre backs, Gabriel. So 3 games for Arsenal. Over on the ArseBros Rantcast, over on my channel, we apply points in games and positive points and negative points. He came out the second best player of the month in our monthly Player of the Month podcast we just did. He's gone into another game now and very impressive again, especially, Dan, his left-footed distribution under pressure in this game I thought was a delight. He's a big bastard as well. He definitely makes us look more physical at the back.
Well, listen, Leno got man of the match and deservedly so, but he walked it for me on the outfield players. I thought Gabriel was outstanding. He's looked solid now against three of the games that he's played in West Ham, Fulham, and now Liverpool. And I think what I love about him is his aerial ability. He's 6'3", he's got pace and power, but his aerial ability is great in the air. That left foot distribution is fantastic, and this signing really excited me. I was really happy with the link with him. I found out weeks before that we'd signed him that there was a Premier League club that had made an offer and it had been accepted, and I was praying that it was us, because I'd spoke to Manny about it, who watches a lot of French football obviously, and we were so excited by it, and you can see why, because he's got everything that we've needed in the last 15 years since we got rid of Sol Campbell. So I look at that and I think that he is a rock at the back. He's commanding, he's got athleticism, he's got pace, power, aerial ability, and at 6'3" we finally got a defender that can actually win something in the air. None of these Socrates, Mustafis, they look 5'10" compared to this dude. I am a massive fan of Gabriel, and I think he will be, and I'll put it out there, I'll say it, I think he will be one of the signings of the season in the Premier League. I really do. I think he's a fantastic defender.
He definitely looks comfortable, very, very fast. Into penalties, Liam. A couple of really, really good penalties stick out. The 2 penalties for Arsenal that I thought were exceptional was Cedric Suarez's was absolutely spanked into the side netting. There was a gnat's cock of resistance there as to whether that was going to be inside post or into the side netting. And the keeper went the right way and took an early dive as well. So exceptional. But the one I want to concentrate on is the size of the inflated testicles of Ainsley Maitland-Niles when he takes a penalty is just amazing. He walks up to it and I'm like, there is no doubt in this kid's head. Did you see what I saw in those 2 penalties? Anything else you want to dig into about the penalty shootout?
Yeah, I mean, Cedric's, just to get it out of the way, fantastic penalty. I mean, the thing I always coach my guys is if they're going to take a penalty, you don't aim for the classic poster stamp, you aim for the side of the net. That's your goal. Because if you hit it hard enough and get it right and get it there, no keeper saving it. Just can't reach it. It's too wide. So yeah, it's a brilliant penalty. Maitland-Niles running out of superlatives for just how calm, how massive his bollocks are.
It's huge.
There's no superlatives for it. I've never seen anything quite like it.
He just walks up to it, literally walks up to it in slow motion and just strokes it. I said on the ArseBros after the last penalty that he took, I was like, it's almost like he walks up and literally hits the ball with his own bollocks. Just
the best bit about it though is the smile afterwards. That grin afterwards is, I mean, that's going viral. I'm sure if I looked at Twitter now, I'd see it every other tweet.
Willock's penalty, just quickly, Liam, very lucky, crap penalty. And I felt as he walked up to it, that the nerves were just jangling for poor Joe. He gets lucky. The keeper goes the right way. It squeezes underneath him, onwards and upwards. El Nenny's penalty, average as well. Savable height for a keeper. In fact, if you were talking about when you were coaching your guys, Liam, about where to put a penalty, I think you'd have to agree that El Nenny's is exactly where you don't put a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to go down the middle, go to the side. For the love of, don't go halfway between the side and the middle. And at that height, a keeper will get it every time. And it's readable as well. I mean, there are tricks to reading a penalty. Being a goalkeeper myself, Addy on the review pods, he'll know a few tricks, I'm sure as well. You could see exactly what was going to happen as soon as he walked up to it. Simple as that.
Onwards and upwards, boys. Half an hour on the game. Really good. Like I said, really exciting to see what the future looks like for Arsenal, and really exciting to see how, if we bring in different styles of players, more athletic players, more running players, really interesting to see how that will amend and change the way Arsenal play. Also, every time... So I have spent the last 3 or 4 months, even longer, talking about Aubameyang not playing out in the middle, saying that the hard work is in the middle and that you need a Lacazette and that you need Eddie Nketiah. But I am now starting to lean back towards, I think if you do get the right players in, you play a midfield 3 instead of the back 5. I feel like you could carry Aubameyang in the middle, just poaching and floating around, and that having those more technical, more wing-based players wide, it's going to allow us to create more chances. I think I was reading the other day, Arsenal create the second least amount of chances per game in the Premier League. Something like we create less than 8 chances per game. And like I said, I do think that comes down to that almost perfect goal and that execution that we require to get shots off. With the kids, they just ran. They were exciting. Yes, Liverpool stomped them a little bit through the middle, but really good. On to the preview, the preview podcast. So the next Premier League game, Dan, it's going to be 3 games in a very short amount of time. You spoke about Ceballos being pulled off. I feel that Ceballos had to be pulled off because he's going to be used in the next game. I've got a funny feeling you might see Ceballos, El Nenny in the midfield against Sheffield. Dan, last year Sheffield were not only a difficult team to come up against, but they weren't difficult in the sense of a standard team coming up from the Premiership. They played quite beautiful football at times. They moved the ball well. They played an interesting shape, and their manager really got them driving forward. They were a genuine threat.
They were. They were the surprise. I can see Leeds being that surprise this season, if I'm honest with you as well. But in different style of football, I think that what they're doing is slightly different. But Sheffield United stuck to their guns. They kept their same squad. They added a couple of players. And I've got to say about Chris Wilder, he deserved Manager of the Year last season for me. And if Klopp wouldn't have walked it with Liverpool, then he would have walked the Manager of the Year award. But this season, it seems completely different. And I don't know whether people have worked them out, or if it's just that old thing of class, just you need class in your team, and they haven't got that much class in their team, if that makes any sense. So I don't think they've got that one or two standout players that you would look at and go, they'd be a threat. You know, we've got to keep them quiet, otherwise we're in trouble. I think they're a well-organised side and always have been. And that's how they try and win football games. And I think that's exactly how they're going to do that. We know what's going to happen. You know, they're going to come to us and they're going to try and sit and make it very difficult for us, because that's the way that they're going to try and take 3 points, or a point, which would be great for them. But they're really struggling at the moment, Sheffield United. And I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but it was happening towards the end of the season in Project Restart. You could see it start to go downhill, and it's just continued for Chris Wilder's side. But listen, saying all that, if they're going to turn up against one team, it's going to be us, isn't it? You just know it.
Liam, it seems to be that this happens regularly in the Premiership, that you will get breakout teams in their first season in the Premiership when they're maybe expected for relegation. I don't know whether it's an emotional thing or whether it's a pressure thing, that when they come up, they can throw caution to the wind, much like we've seen Leeds this year, and go out and play their football. But 3 games, 3 losses for Sheffield. Are you expecting them to put up the same sort of challenge that they put up last year? Or do you think that this Arsenal team, this new, more organised Arsenal team, is going to have the tools to be able to go out there and pick them apart?
Yeah, this was kind of one of the teams before the season where I thought, you know what, I'd really actually quite like to know a Sheffield United fan's perspective and go, so what are your expectations for this year? Because is it realistically going to be you're challenging for a European spot again? But are you too good? Are you thinking you guys are now too good to be concerned with relegation? So where do they sort of stand? I still have those question marks. I was surprised that they've lost all 3 of their first games. Yeah, a part of me says we should be picking them apart, given the start that they've had and the quality that we do have. So we've got the ability to do it, but Chris Wilder strikes me as the sort of manager that won't let it happen again. He'll get something into them that says, no, this time we turn up, and he won't have any of it. So.
Dan, with the Arsenal team, you and I have had many conversations on many different podcasts. As I say to you all the time, you are the prostitute of the podcasting world. We've said many times on many different platforms that actually this Arsenal team quite struggle against teams who sit in a low block and sit in shape. We saw it against West Ham at times. They were very well organised in a very good shape and tried to hit us on the break. What do you do as far as changing the lineup, changing the midfield, wing backs for a team where we can expect to have 60%, maybe even 70% of possession?
Well, this is where it becomes interesting with Mikel Arteta, isn't it? Because it seems to me that he does have more of a plan B than Pep. Because what Pep Guardiola does is he has plan A, and when it doesn't work, he seems to make plan A better. And what Mikel Arteta does is already we've seen a plan B, because he tried the 4-3-3. He clearly wants to play 4-3-3, but we have not got the tools to play 4-3-3 unless we get Thomas Partey and Houssem Aouar, which I believe that we could then try to do something then. But until that happens, we're in a situation where we have to play with this 5 at the back. And I think that there could be a situation against Sheffield United where he could go with 4, but I don't expect it to happen. I personally believe it gets to a stage on Sunday when we have to then play Kieran Tierney out wide. And the reason I say that is because Tierney's done an unbelievable job at left centre-back. I really like the lad. You know, as well as Aubameyang, he's my favourite player, Kieran Tierney. I think he is absolutely outstanding. And I think with Tierney at left wing back and Maitland-Niles at right wing back, it gives us the athleticism, the young, vibrant fullbacks that we have so needed for, it seems like, forever at Arsenal. And it allows Gabriel to come in at left centre-back option with Holding, who you've mentioned being good form, and Luiz in that middle, because Luiz does ping a pass and he does look okay in a back 3 as long as he's in the middle of the other 2. In terms of the midfield, listen, I think it will be Xhaka and Ceballos. I do. I know what you're saying about El Neni, and he has been probably out the 3 of them one of the most consistent in the last few games, to be honest with you. But with El Neni, you don't get any forward passes. You just don't. And you do with Ceballos, and he loves Granit Xhaka. He absolutely loves Granit Xhaka. So I think when you look at those midfield options, that's probably what it's going to be. And I expect the front 3 to remain the same in Willian, Lacazette and Aubameyang. So I don't think it's going to be a complete and utter change too much from Monday night's game. But for me, it would be the option of Kieran Tierney as a wing back now. And Bellerin being dropped, because it must be time. It must be time for that guy.
I actually thought that Cedric, I'm not a Cedric fan. I was never a fan of the signing. But I thought that Cedric in this game showed how deficient Bellerin is with chances created, constantly hitting the first man and crossing the ball down. Cedric has a nasty, whippy ball into the box, no doubt.
Well, I mean, but people have said Bellerin's been been improving, and I thought in the second half against Fulham, I thought he was outstanding. Bellerin, really, really good, really impressed me. But against Liverpool, I just thought he was having an absolute shocker. And I think sometimes you need to know you've had a shocker to then give you the kick up the arse you need. And Ainsley Maitland-Niles, for me, has, in my opinion, all the attributes to be a modern-day fullback. And I think he knows now that he is a fullback. I think he can do a job in midfield potentially, but I think he knows there's an opportunity for him there now. And that's why he stopped moaning, because he's seen, look, I can get into this team playing first team football on the left or right, and I can be that man. And I think that as a right wing back, he's better than on the left. I didn't think he was great against Liverpool, if I'm honest, Maitland-Niles on the left. But on the right, I'd like to see him there. And if I had the choice of everybody fit, like I said earlier, I would have Maitland-Niles ahead of Bellerin personally.
Liam, my theory on Kieran Tierney and my theory on him being played at centre-back is that his history with soft tissue injuries might be leading him away from being a winger who has to get the maximum amount of miles up and down the pitch for an entire game. Do you think that might be the case, that we are managing him? He's coming back from another soft tissue injury and we may not see him in what is, I guess, all of our preferred position for him in the wing-back position, playing his very technical balls into the box?
Quite possibly. The other thing to remember is that when we do play a back three, it's not a true back three. It's when we get the ball, we move into a four at the back. And I know the argument is Gabriel to the left, but then you're asking Gabriel to play at left back in the build-up. And I'm not sure that's the position for him. So it could partly be down to, actually, we've got a system here that saves Tierney's legs. But I think the other part of it is we want to morph into a back four. Tierney's the natural left back and can do a job as an inside centre back. Perfect. And that's why you see Kolasinac play there as well.
I think, Dan, definitely Gabriel is more technical than what we expected him to be. I think we expect him to be a decent distributor, but his not only the areas he played those balls into, but his timing of when to play the balls in there. I thought that he hoofed it when he needed to hoof it. I thought that he played short and technical when he needed to play short. Do you think that we're going to see Gabriel in a back three against Sheffield?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there where you say that he doesn't take no nonsense. When he realises he needs to clear it, he clears it. And that's what David Luiz sometimes doesn't do. But I think with Gabriel, he is going to play again on Sunday. He has to play. I mean, he's our best defender. And he has to play, in my opinion. It'll be interesting to see what Kieran Tierney. I've got a different opinion about Kieran Tierney's injuries. I don't know that we can say that he's always injury. I just think that the injury that he got against West Ham was a freak injury. He fell on his shoulder and broke his collarbone. Anybody can do that. That's nothing to do with soft tissue damage or hamstrings pinging or tendons going. That's just a real freak injury. And I know that he came back from, was it a hernia operation when we signed him? So from that point onwards, apart from the dislocated shoulder, he wouldn't have actually had that much time out, maybe a couple of weeks here and there. So I don't think any more than any different player. So I would like to see him on the wing because I think we need him. Maitland-Niles going forward, he can't cross with his left. He has to cut in and go with his right. Maitland-Niles is fine with his right foot down the right back situation. But Tierney, I think we missed that threat down the left and those crosses. So I'm hoping to see Tierney on the left-hand side at some point soon.
Liam, prediction for the score for the game. What are you expecting to see from Arsenal?
I'd like to think we can win by a couple of goals. I think Sheffield United will try to cause us problems because I think they have to. So I'll go 3-1 to us.
Dan, funnily enough, since Aubameyang has signed his contract, he's not played amazingly for us. Do you think this is the game when Oba breaks the shackles, bangs a couple in, and shows us what £300 looks like when you're not? £300,000 a week looks like when you're not Mesut Ozil?
Well, listen, he's not going to be a Mesut Ozil, that's for sure. He's not going to sit back and kick back, do the bare minimum, and swan around. For me, we're going to see Aubameyang perfectly fine throughout the season. So he's too good. He's too good. He's a goal scorer. He's a goal machine. I think he'll score in this game. I don't know if he'll get a brace or a hat-trick, but I certainly expect him to score. And I'm going to go for a 3-0 Arsenal win.
I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go for a cheeky 1-0 for Arsenal. I think that we're going to be leggy. I think that Sheffield are going to sit deep. It's a lot of games to have played in a small amount of time. And I can see us going out and starting very, very fast maybe grabbing an early goal, maybe grabbing 2 early goals if Sheffield are a little bit disorganised. But I can't see us sort of having a very big dominant 3-1 performance. Liam, quick chat, because it would be remiss of us not to have a chat about transfers, about what's going on. As far as outs go, I am currently very, very excited, even, may I say, sexually excited about the possibility of Sead Kolasinac leaving on a 120 odd K a week of wages for £11 million. Liam, if Edu gets this signing over the line, can we collectively start a Kickstarter to get Edu as many prostitutes as he requires?
I mean, I guess so. Why the fuck not? I mean, he's just won us 10 million. I mean, I feel like, I mean, he's a dunce, isn't he? He's the one that wears the dunce hat of this team. It beggars belief how we could possibly get 10 million quid out of him, especially after watching tonight. Yeah, I've run out of superlatives for quite how we've managed. I don't quite know how we've managed to get that much, if I'm honest. He hasn't got that long left on his contract, has he?
Dan, it will be a coup if we get rid of Kebab Meat Head.
Praise the Lord. Man, this guy is the worst left back we have ever had. He makes Andre Santos look like Roberto Carlos, mate. That's how shocking this guy is. He is such a bad footballer. And the reason he's a bad footballer is because he's brain dead, for one. He's got no intelligence. He's so uncomfortable on the ball. He's terrible off the ball. And his passing is shambolic. We all saw it what happened a few months ago at White Hart Lane, where he passed the ball just into Son's pass. I mean, that would give Harry Winks or Dele Alli a few grand a week extra for how good that pass assist was for Son. So for me, I just can't wait to see the back of him. I hear it's 9 million being raised to 11 million to buy Leverkusen. I mean, all I can say is that league is terrible, because this was the league that we were told he was the best left back in. So if he's the best left back in that league, I don't want to see the other left backs. Trust me, should be nobody buying left backs from the Bundesliga if he's the best left back. He is a terrible footballer, and I cannot wait to see the back of him. And everyone says, "Oh, but he was a free transfer. That's why he was 125k a week." I don't care. I don't give a damn. He's on way too much a week, and I am also hearing that we have managed to somehow pull down the pants of Lazio and receive £13 million for Skodran Mustafi. That is what I'm being told. So if we can add that up and say that we've hit near on £25 million for these two clowns, then hopefully that gives us some money to go and get Thomas Partey. That's all I'm saying, man.
Makes me want to sing, Dan. Makes me want to start singing. Oh, happy day.
Man, it is, praise the Lord, man. Because I tell you what, I am so done with these dead players that have got the weakest mentality, that were Arsene Wenger and Ivan Gazidis signings, let's not forget. Let's get rid of them, man. Jesus Christ.
On Mustafi, though, Dan, I think of all of the players, he may have been the only one who has played himself into having value again. And I think you've got to give it to Mikel Arteta for creating a shape that made those defenders look a huge amount better than what they were. He's got him in the shop window. We all thought that he was never going to go anywhere. I don't know who's been watching Kolasinac and has thought that this is a guy who we need, because he certainly has not played himself into the shop window. He's played himself into the bargain bin out the back with the Barbie doll with the Ken legs and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle hair. You know, it's amazing that we're going to get rid of him. Liam, into ends. So I learned how to say his name yesterday from Manny, who is French. Hassam Ouar. Sound like Al Pacino when you're saying it, and you'll work out what you're doing. Apparently coming into the club, do you think that if we accept that as done, because we're hearing that it is done, do you think that Hassam Ouar changes massively what's happening at Arsenal, or are you like the way I feel, that he is another attacking prong and still isn't going to solve the major issue that we have in midfield that negates us from playing a midfield three?
Yeah, I think if we played a back three, I don't quite know where he gets in, because I can't see him being one of the two. I don't know a lot about the player, so maybe I'm wrong there. So I think he's a sort of player that does actually enable us to go to four at the back, because I mean, that's the only way I see us getting him in the squad. He does solve a creativity problem, because the great thing about, from what I have seen anyway, is he just creates chaos. We're a little bit of a safe team. We play the safe option, and we don't dare to try and get that through ball. And I think he's the sort of player that will probe, and that solves a bit of that problem. I still think Partey's the one we really need, because he's just so press resistant and can do so many things.
He's the anti-Xhaka.
Basically, yeah. Him and Ceballos would work really well next to each other, in my opinion. I think we need both of them. Partey probably more, but Uar does solve a problem as well.
Dan, if we are looking forward, if we're forecasting to what's going to happen at the end of this transfer window, I've got 2 questions for you to answer. Number one, if we do get the sales and we get the cash in and we can trigger the upfront money required for Thomas Partey, I don't know. Do you think that we will get that done? First question. And then second question leading into that, if we do not get that done, can you build a cohesive midfield 3 out of Uar, Ceballos and Xhaka?
Well, first of all, Max, I think we're going to get them both done. And I'm one of the only Arsenal fans who seems to think that we're going to. A lot of people think it's too late now. It's not too late. Trust me. We've seen it with Arsenal. We saw Arshavin come 3 years after the transfer window had shut, pretty much. That's how late that was. So there's enough time. There is enough time for player sales. I think we have already seen, 5 or 6 players that have been nowhere near the squad that are all fully fit. They're going. And it doesn't matter if they're going on loan with obligations to buy. They're leaving. Arteta needs them to go out. So I think we're going to raise enough funds to release the clause of Thomas Partey at the last minute. And I think what will happen is you'll see Ceballos, Uar and Partey all playing in a midfield 3. I'm totally with Liam. We need both of these players. One of them is not enough. One of us will be fighting for top 6. Both of them will be fighting for top 4. They're the kind of missing pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. If we're to get Houssem Aouar, which we believe is the one that is looking more likely to start with, then it's going to have to be a Ceballos, Xhaka, Aouar midfield 3. If not, it's going to have to be a switch round with Xhaka and Ceballos and Xhaka and Aouar, because I don't think Ceballos can play next to Aouar. I just don't see it. So personally, I hope that we get both, because it's going to be a struggle for us if we just get Houssem Aouar. It's frustrating, isn't it? Because it's catch-22. If you get Aouar, you've got the creativity that we do lack. And we've said earlier on in the show that we lack creativity. But if we get the creativity, we're still looking at that enforcer that we need. And he's so good in transition, Thomas Partey. So I think I'm with Liam that he's the more important player, but Houssem Aouar is the better footballer. So it's a real hard one for me. I'd just love to see us get both. And I'm keeping the faith that Edu and Arteta are going to pull something out of the bag so we can get both of them by the 5th of October.
Liam, same question to you. Can you build a cohesive midfield 3 out of Xhaka, Uar and Ceballos?
Yes. I think out of those 3, yes. But you have to play all 3. Totally with Dan. You can't play Ceballos and Uar as a 2. Doesn't work for me. I'd still have a question mark over Xhaka. I think he's a fine player, but against a City or a Liverpool, no. Wouldn't trust him. So yeah, I think it's a fine. I think it pushes us somewhere closer to top 4. It's not quite there yet, though, maybe.
Dan, any other interesting signings coming in and going out for you? We're hearing Torreira on loan, which is not very tasty on the palate for me. It's like a spoonful of shit. I want money for him. Guendouzi, we've apparently knocked back a few offers because they've been below the £22 million mark that we've rated him at. Apparently, we have dropped down from 35 down to 25 for what we want for Guendouzi. Do you think these deals are going to get done? Do you think there's anything left field coming in out of the transfer window?
I think the players that could be on the brink of leaving, I think Socrates, Kolasinac, Mustafi, we've spoken about. Guendouzi on loan with an obligation to buy. Torreira on loan, and that will be bad news if we don't get Partey in that. I mean, that's crazy. To give them a midfielder and them to not give us one back is crazy. For me, Callum Chambers, there's interest from Leeds, Newcastle and Fulham. I can see something happening there. I know that he's only just come back to training, but it looks like Rob Holding gets the nod over Callum Chambers at the moment. So now that he's staying, perhaps Newcastle and West Ham that wanted Holding could be now interested in Chambers. In terms of ins, Lee Judges reckons Zaha. Now, this is the deal I've heard, or he's heard. He's heard Zaha is coming to Arsenal, and he has heard that Eddie Nketiah is going to be given to them on loan, and Reece Nelson is going to be given to them permanently. But we're going to be paying 50 million for Zaha, either over instalments or 50 million next year. Now, that sounds like an absolute madness deal to me, as far as Palace is concerned. The only thing that I question about where he's got this from, because I said it was nonsense, but what doesn't make me think maybe it isn't, is they're after Brewster. They've got Easy. They're after Nelson, apparently on loan. And there was another lad they were after, who was the lad who scored tonight against Fulham for Brentford, Benrahma. Is it Benrahma or whatever his name? Benrahma. Why are they after these players? They've got Zaha, they've got Townsend, they've got Easy, they've got Benteke up front, they've got how many strikers and wingers have they got now? I don't think that they need any of those players we've just mentioned. So maybe it's because Zaha's decided, look, he gave us a year of loyalty and now he can go. He's a gooner. He destroyed Man United the other week. What did he do? Went straight in the backyard and watched the Gooners because he's a gooner. He watched Arsenal West Ham. He wants the Arsenal move so badly, and apparently, according to league judges, he's heard that it could get done. So I don't know. I can't see it personally. Certainly don't see all three of them coming. I think Austin Mawar is the one that looks pretty certain to happen. I just hope the other one's Thomas Partey. I really do. Jorginho, that's smokescreen. I hope that's a smokescreen. That's another Granit Xhaka for me. You know, it's a poor opinion. In my opinion, poor signing. 27 million isn't going to get him. From what I hear, is 27 million. I mean, he bought him for 57, so they're not going to accept that. I hope that's a smokescreen for Thomas Partey. I really do. But apart from that, Max, I'm all out for rumours.
Mate, I said about Jorginho, I said Jorginho is another Xhaka, and I don't want the Xhaka we've got. So.
It's a right-footed version. That's all he is.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, we've managed to rattle through an hour. Dan, do you want to? Not that you need to plug Same Old Arsenal, because you guys are now, a juggernaut of the podcasting world. But give it a plug anyway, mate. Go for it.
Cheers, man. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure to come on to Clock In Talk. Great podcast and nicely hosted by yourself, Max. Very well behaved, man. Very well behaved.
I only mentioned prostitution and hand jobs. You did 3 or 4 times. If you watch the ArseBros Rantcast, it gets a lot worse than that.
It really does. This is tame. But yeah, head over. Follow myself on Twitter at DanArsenal87. Get yourself over to Twitter at Same Old AFC. Same Old Arsenal is on every Monday around about 7 to 7:30. And also we've got a new show which I run on Friday nights with Graham Brooks and Manny. Normally have a preview show guest on as well. It's called the Same Old Arsenal Team Talk, and it's on at Fridays at 7 p.m. And tomorrow night we're going to be talking Sheffield United, although my Sheffield United fan is ill and unwell, so it's just going to be Gooners tomorrow night. But still be great all the same. And Graham's a real good kind of tactician when it comes to him breaking down football and analysis. So if you would like to come and join us, then please do tomorrow night, 7 o'clock.
Amazing. Liam, the guys can find you at the Groening Guna.
We'll go Gron in Guna. That's okay. I've put the text up now. It should be a bit easier for everyone to find. Yeah.
When I'm trying to speak Dutch, I just try and gather as much phlegm from the back of my throat as I can, and just spit it onto the microphone. Guys, you can find me at the Arse Brothers. If you haven't jumped on and listened to the Arse Brothers, Dan's a semi-regular with us. Liam, I'm sure I'll get you on as a guest soon. It is essentially a room of degenerates making dick jokes and drinking beer, but we do break down Arsenal. We've got 5 shows out there. Jump on board. Tezza, I hope I did right by you. I hope that I managed to mediate what is Max enough to be able to get out to your wonderful cohort of listeners. Last week, the preview show hit over 4K listeners, which is big for a preview show. So Darren's going to be back next week. I'll be back. Liam will be back. Guys, follow the Clock End Talk. They're everywhere on all your socials. Thank you very much. Up the Arsenal, and we go on to the next round of the FA Cup. Cheers, Gooners. Good night. League
Cheers,
Cup.
guys.
Thank you. Cheers, guys. Good night.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks.